Well, some big-name Republicans in New Hampshire this weekend drawing a huge crowd to the Freedom Summit. Texas Senator Ted Cruz getting a strong response from the audience talking about the impact of Obamacare.
I think about the policies we're seeing today and how they would have impacted my dad when he was washing dishes. If my father were still washing dishes today, the odds are very, very high he would have lost his job because of the $1.7 trillion in new taxes from this administration, because of the crushing regulations that are hammering small businesses, and small businesses generate 2/3 of the new jobs.
Steve Laser is a Democratic strategist and a former Obama campaign aide. David Avella is the president of GOPAC, a political training organization for Republicans, and he's a Fox News contributor. Gentlemen, great to see you both.
Good to see you, Gretchen.
All right, so this New Hampshire summit, there were some fresh faces up there and some that we've seen more often than not. What do you make of it?
Well, we're going to see a lot of these type of events, and the Republicans who stand out are going to be those who actually talk about the things that impact people in their everyday lives. And Ted Cruz talked about a little bit there about how hard it is now for Americans because of the amount of taxes we pay, the segment you just did, that it's tough on Americans. The ones who are going to break out, though, are those who really are going to talk about ideas that help Americans deal with everyday life.
You know, Steve, though, my takeaway from listening to Ted Cruz, at least that little snippet there, is that it's always good to use family anecdotal stories, especially when you have a story like Ted Cruz's, because his dad was a dishwasher. I mean, could this turn some people who would normally vote Democratic to say, wow, that sounds like maybe my life experience?
Well, families are probably about the most uncontroversial thing that a politician can talk about. But, you know, one of the things that I took away from this whole thing, I saw this big effort by Republicans to start trying to appeal to Hispanics, Latinos, and women. I don't think they'll be able to get there. You know, I was listening to some of the things that they were saying, and they can't get to the things that those groups talk about. You know, we've seen the Republicans, since President Obama was elected, they've funded and they've organized the Tea Party, the far-right part of their party. And the effect of that we're seeing here with the 2014 election and coming up with the 2016 election. They can't even come close to approaching things like immigration reform that most Latinos care about. You know, you saw Marco Rubio try to talk about immigration reform. You saw Jeb Bush try to talk about immigration reform.
President Bush had Latino vote, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there is a way in which you can get it back.
Absolutely.
Correct?
And compare that to what the Democrats can't talk to, all those coalition groups that Steve just talked about. Can't talk about health care. They've completely screwed that up. They can't talk about job creation. They haven't created hardly one while the president's been in office. There's nothing. Look, we have a great message to be able to take to Republicans. One, starting with talking about the millions of people the president has left behind, and two, our ideas, which, if you look at states led by Republicans, the ones led by Republicans are leading the nation in job creation.
Well, I would think that jobs and employment would still be on the top of the list for both parties.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, Republicans are launching this program to get more women involved in the upcoming elections, focusing on younger women in suburban areas that lean blue typically. So, Steve, what do you make of this? It's 14 and 14. In other words, they're trying to mobilize women now, which, quite frankly, Democrats have been very good at doing with this war on women. Whether or not you believe in it, I know David doesn't. But what do you make now of this Republican effort?
Well, again, you know, we're going to see all of these far-right candidates that are going to be nominated. They're not going to be able to talk about things like choice. They're not going to be able to talk about things like gay rights and all of these things that women are concerned about. Now, obviously, women are concerned about the economy also. Women are concerned about jobs.
Well, they make most of the decisions in the family, though, when it comes to the economy.
Absolutely. But if you can't even guarantee women that they're going to get equal pay for equal work, if you can't guarantee them that they're going to have control over their own bodies, then women aren't even going to get to the point where they want to talk about the economy.
The first step there is not to work at the White House, who pays women less than they pay men. But that said, the best way for us to rebut this ridiculous charge of the war on the women is our female candidates. And whether that's Shelley Capito in West Virginia, who says, let's create more jobs through energy, whether that's Joni Ernst in Iowa, who said, let's castrate government spending in Washington, whether that's Marilinda Garcia in New Hampshire, who talks about the millions who've lost their health care because of Obamacare. When Americans see that we're talking about the issues that they deal with every day in their lives, not many of the social issues that Steve likes to reference in his war on women, but things that people deal with every day around the kitchen table, they're going to vote Republican.
Well, I think it's just very interesting to watch this politically play out before the midterms, because the Democrats went back to the war on women and equal pay a couple weeks ago. Now the Republicans have 14 in 14. So we'll have to see. It'll be up to the voters. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Time to check in now with Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck. Shep.
Gretchen.